become a hero or an absolute disaster of a human being.
So the Switch 2 is coming out, and I thought it would be a great idea to tell you guys what games I would like for the system. So we are probably going to get a new Zelda game for the Switch in 5 years, but what do I want from this game? Well, I'll tell you. Well, I do like the art style of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I've honestly kind of gotten sick of it. I just want something brand new for the next Zelda game that doesn't use anything similar to Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom's style. Now, of course, I think the gameplay would be pretty similar to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I think they should streamline it a bit more. I do love the absolute freedom of those games, but the story suffered because of it. For instance, in Tears of the Kingdom, every time you beat one of the dungeons, it gives you the same cutscene over and over again.
Long years ago, when the kingdom of light was still young, earliest days, a great evil, the demon king, descended on the land. He sought the destruction and killed everyone who resisted. But the first king of light requested my aid, as well as that of 5 others.
Because of this absolute open world formula, they can't really dive that much into the story like the more linear Zelda games. I think a good way to make it better for stories is to make it so you tackle each dungeon one at a time. So instead of like the other games where you could just do whatever dungeon you wanted, you'd start with like one dungeon and then do the next dungeon and then do the next. You would still be able to go to those areas in the game, you just wouldn't be able to do the dungeons yet because let's say you might not have the right item or something to get into it. I think for this next game, they should either go for something cartoony like Wind Waker or more realistic like Twilight Princess. I'm just kind of sick of this Breath of the Wild art style. I want to see something new and bold from the series. I would be fine with a Wind Waker aesthetic, but in my opinion, I really want a more realistic Zelda game. And this would be especially cool since we're getting better graphics on the Switch 2. And I think a more realistic Zelda game would look just beautiful on it. I mean, imagine a Zelda game looking similar to something like Elden Ring. That would just be really cool. I'm just also kind of sick of Hyrule. I mean, we've had to beat Ganon and be in the same castle for so long. I want to go somewhere completely new. I think that would be really sick. I think something they should do for this game is give us crafting. In Tears of the Kingdom, you could fuse weapons and stuff. I'm Shadow the Hedgehog, here to tell you to like and subscribe to this channel, or else I'll kill you with this damn PNG of a gun. So you better like and subscribe now. Oh wait, just kidding. This is just a PNG, so I can't kill you. But you still should subscribe. Anyway, back to your stupid video. But there was still all this junk in your inventory that you started to collect throughout the game that you didn't really have use for. I think a crafting mechanic could really give some use to those items. You'd be able to make weapons. You could also maybe be able to make armor and clothes and just all sorts of stuff. I think another thing they should do is if they decide to add another shrine equivalent to this game, they need to give us some variety. Every shrine you went to in those games was just the same background. I think for each shrine should have its own unique setting. Also, if you're gonna have voice acting, you may as well go all the way with it. Instead of it just being in cutscenes and specific events, I think every piece of dialogue should be voice acted for the main characters. Of course, villagers and side characters and stuff don't need to be voice acted, but all the main characters should. One last thing I really hope Nintendo does with the last game is make Link not as hot. I mean, he's just so hot in those games. It's hard for me to play or pay attention because of how hot he is. He's just so beautiful and gorgeous. And it doesn't help that the game is in third person, so I'm always looking at his, yeah, but I just really hope they make the next game's Link not as hot, or maybe hotter. A Metroid 6 for the Switch 2 would be absolutely amazing. I hope they don't just end it with Metroid Dread and give us a new 2D Metroid game. I think it should just be pretty similar to Dread, but just better. Something I hope they do is give us better music than Metroid Dread. As much as I love Metroid Dread, one of the things it didn't do well was its music. It just sounds kind of generic and not that memorable. They should give us some real catchy bops, like Super Metroid. Or Metroid Prime. And give us some good atmospheric music. I hope they also give us a Super Metroid remake. I think it would make sense if eventually all the 2D Metroid games just got remakes. I mean, Metroid 1 and 2 got remakes, so I don't see why Super Metroid couldn't get a remake either. I think it would just be Super Metroid, but with better graphics and the same movement as Metroid Dread. This would just be an amazing remake to see. A game I think would just be pretty neat to see on Switch 2 is The Sims 4, and it would work perfectly on the Switch 2 with its new mouse feature. I think this would just be a cute little game to add to the Switch 2. A game I'm really surprised about not being on the original Switch is Genshin Impact. I mean, why isn't it on there? It just makes so much sense. But I guess the world just doesn't want to make sense sometimes, so you know what? Just put it on the Switch too. And you know what? Give us the other Hoyoverse games, like Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero. I think those games would be great on Switch 2. Jeez, man, Chibi Robo just kind of died with Ziplash. I mean, literally nothing has been heard from Chibi Robo since. So I think it'd be pretty cool if we got a remake of the original Chibi Robo, kind of like Metroid Prime remastered. I think this would be a great way to introduce Chibi Robo to more audiences. Another game that kind of just died for no reason is Kid Icarus. I think we should also get a remake of Kid Icarus Uprising for the Switch. And you know what? Give us a Kid Icarus Uprising 2. I think this would be really cool to see. It'd be a great revival of the series. So, Princess Peach got her own game, but what about the other Mario gals? I think they could get their own games as well. Like a Princess Daisy game. I think a good gameplay style for Princess Daisy's kind of tomboy style would be a skateboarding game. I think this game could be a 2D side-scroller, kind of like Princess Peach's games, but it would be a lot different. This time it would be like a skateboarding game. There would be all sorts of rails and ramps and all sorts of stuff you could go on. There would also be multiple skateboard power-ups, so depending on which power-up you got, your skateboard would be different, which I think would be a pretty cool way to mix up the game. I also think Daisy would get her own unique skater outfit for this game. It could be kind of like her Mario Striker outfit, but more skateboardery. I think this would be a great opportunity for Daisy to get her own solo adventure. I mean, we really haven't explored that much into Daisy, so this would be really cool to see. I want to see Nintendo give us their next big thing. Their next big single-player series. And I actually have an idea for what that single-player series could be. It could be a horror game. Yeah. Now, Nintendo has only really dipped their toes into the horror genre with Eternal Darkness and publishing the Fatal Frame games. But it would be so cool to see them make their own original horror game series. This would just be so sick. What's cool about Eternal Darkness, Nintendo's only horror game, is that it actually tricks you into thinking that stuff's actually going wrong with the video game in your TV and stuff, which is such a clever Nintendo way to make a horror game. It just feels just like Nintendo. Seeing a horror game from Nintendo would be so cool. It would also be cool because typically Nintendo's seen as a kiddie company that makes mostly kiddie games. But it would be so awesome for them to try and make something like dark and mature and like M-rated. That would be really cool to see from Nintendo. I would also love to see what fun and amazing twists they could bring to the genre. Honestly, I haven't really played any horror games, but still, this would be really awesome to see. Alright, so that was my wish list of Switch 2 games I want. Now, not all of these games are probably going to end up actually happening, but who knows, they could end up happening. And this is just a fun video anyway. So, I hope you liked this video, and I'll see you in the next one.